I've always felt a little bit sorry for Vauxhall. They always seem to be the bridesmaid to Ford's bride, if that makes sense. Think back, people always revered the Sierra, you know, rather than a Cavalier in some respects. And of course, you know, Escort and Focus rather than Astra. And of course, when it came to sort of like the medium sector, of course, the Mondeo rather than the Insignia. But the problem is, Ford have got a little bit of a problem because they no longer build the Fiesta. So of course Vauxhall has seen the benefit of that, and of course the Corsa is a very strong selling car. In fact, it's one of the best selling cars in the UK. And whilst they're getting ready to retire the Focus, Vauxhall are continuing to build on the success of the Astra. However, that medium sector, where there used to be that medium-sized family car in Mondeos and Insignias, there's a problem because of course there's no Mondeo anymore, but also there's no more Insignia. Now Ford are going to turn around and say, yeah, well, we've got the Kuga now, that's our medium-sized family car, and it's a good car, you know. But what about if you wanted to go electric? Well, of course, they're going to turn around and say, yes, but of course, we've got the Mustang Mach-E and we've got the new Explorer. Well, they're hardly setting the sales charts alight with them, are they? And that is where I can see an opportunity for the Griffin. And that opportunity is going to be taken with this, the new Grandland. Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the new Vauxhall Grandland. And as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before I start on the review of Vauxhall's new Grandland, I'm back in a car park because, well, it's another weekend, which means there's another storm battering Britain. Storm Darren or David or whatever they've decided to call this one, and it's yeah, it's not particularly pleasant outside, so apologies on the lighting, but that's what we have to do sometimes to bring you these reviews. And of course, before we do that, I have to obviously ask to make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel, and then once you've done that, make sure you press the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you'll be notified when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Hopefully another one will be outside. Of course, once you've watched the video, if you do enjoy it, despite the surroundings, then of course give it a little thumbs up, and don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars or reviews, such as the new Grandland from Vauxhall, and of course on the AutoEV channel on the whole. Now, I must admit, I've been quite confused by Vauxhall's SUV lineup over, partly because they weren't really that interesting as well. You know, I wasn't very sure about the Mocha, the Crossland and the Grandland, which one sort of like sat below each other, and it just was all a bit confusing as far as I could tell. But since they've sort of like really come under the banner of Stellantis Group, they've really sort of got their act together now, and there's now much more of a defined hierarchy, if you will, to their SUVs. It started with the really rather excellent little Mocha. I really like that little car. And of course, there used to be the Crossland, which is now being replaced by the new Frontera. Why they've chosen it to call it that, one of the worst cars I always remember, but never mind, they have, and that's what it's going to be. I'm told by colleagues who have driven it that it's actually quite a decent little steer. And of course now there is the Grandland, the largest of the SUVs. And of course it's built on the platform, the STLA medium platform that underpins things such as the Peugeot E3008. So, is this the car that's going to give Vauxhall that medium family car sector success that it needs after, of course, it's done away with things such as the Insignia? Time to find out. So the new Grandland, as I say, is Vauxhall's largest SUV, and it sits above the Mocha and the new Frontera. It sits on the Stellantis STLA medium platform and is available with both fully electric and hybrid drivetrains. It comes with a 73 kilowatt-hour battery that can see up to 325 miles of range, according to WLTP figures. And in 2025, it will be available with a larger 98 kilowatt-hour battery for up to 435 miles. For the moment, it's powered by a single front-mounted motor with 213 PS. And prices start from just over £37,000 for the first of 3 trim levels. Now, in the past, I've been quite critical of Vauxhall for charging above average prices for cars that would only travel a very average distance on a single charge and looked quite distinctly average. But what we have here seems to be quite a good looking car, very spacious, at a decent price and offers a good range. So if it drives better than average, does Vauxhall have a clear-cut winner on its hands? Well, of course, the only way we're going to find that out is by putting it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. And that, despite the weather, is the AutoEV one. Now, as always, we're going to start with styling, which for a Vauxhall can be hit or miss, let's be honest. And with the current range, if I'm being blunt about it, I'm a bit nonplussed about some of them, in fairness. The Corsa's a bit bland, the Astra's all right. You know, I really like the little Mocha. I think that's a good looking car. But you know, the Combo's just a van really, isn't it? Let's be fair. However, this, I think, is a real winner. I love the way this car looks. Of course, the fact that it's in this impact copper optional metallic paint does help as well, but I really think this is a good looking car. Now, the old Grandland really struggled to sort of define its place, I think. It wasn't really sure what size or class it wanted to be in. There's much more definition with this car now. And I think, you know, in fairness to Vauxhall, I think they've done a really, really good job with this car. It's a lovely looking thing. It really is. Very clean, very uncluttered, very distinctive as well. Helped by this new front end. Now, I will talk about trims and prices and such later on, but there are 3 trim levels effectively. The lead-in model, the design, does not get the full width illuminated light bar here. That's reserved for the middle spec and this top of the range Ultimate. And of course, it's got the what they call the 3D visor grille. And of course, with the law changing now, this is now illuminated, which I think does help a lot. It's got the LED matrix and telepixel, I think they're called, headlights, which give 50,000 elements in there somewhere. And Telelux headlights, yeah, there you go, which are great at night, really, really clear at night. I've been driving the car a lot this week, and as I say, at night, it's been fantastic. Very clean at the front as well, you know, and very sharp, nice lines. You get the central spine, which is a little bit more defined at the rear, which will obviously will go on to there. The reason for it being there's a sort of cross element to Vauxhall's design, and that's sort of like part of that there. Nicely little embedded camera down there, and what I really like is this lower cooling section here, where you've got your plus and your minuses in there, your positives and negatives for the electric one. I really like that, the little positive and negative signs in there to signify the fact that it's an electric car. I think that's, you know, sort of like a really nice little design touch. Well done, Vauxhall. But yeah, clean, uncluttered, handsome. Let's call it that. Now, like I said, the old Grandland really struggled to sort of define its class a little bit. You know, it wasn't really sure where it fitted in the world. This is very much that medium sector SUV style of car. 4,650 millimetres long. It's longer than a Volkswagen ID4, 1 millimetre longer than a Skoda Enyaq, and much longer than the likes of a Renault Scenic and the Ford Explorer. So it offers a huge amount of space inside the car. But we'll get onto that a little bit later. The side profile is a really nice place to be. I'm really sorry, of course, of the surroundings. You're really not getting a good idea of it, but I'll put some B-roll up as well. But I will really like, there's some very strong, very clean and simple lines along the side of the car that really help define it. There's this nice sort of like line here at the top of the wheel arch that's there. There's another one that runs down the doors there and kicks up here. There's a last one there that comes out of this door into that rear haunch and just round the back of the car. This nice section of C-pillar here that just flows up, and then of course with the contrasting by duotone colour that you get on GS and Ultimate models, it helps really define it, and that's matched of course by the contrasting sort of like, you know, wheel arches and the gloss black sill sections and door mirrors. Really, really nice looking car, I think. I think it's very distinctive, but look how clean and uncluttered it is. It's not fussy at all. What they've done as well is, which is really quite nice, was Peugeot started doing as well. There isn't a gutter there. There isn't a rubber sort of like seal there. So basically you've got glass and panel work. So it gives the design a really clean, unfussy look. And that really helps it as well. And it gives it an air of, dare I suggest, premium, I think, in the car. But yeah, it's a good looking car, isn't it? Now, 19-inch wheels come as standard across the range on the design in the GS. If you go for this Ultimate, then you get 20-inch alloy wheels. GS and Ultimate's got that sort of like biotone again, the black and diamond turn finish. The design models are just standard silver finish. But yeah, I think it's quite a handsome car. And as I say, I do happen to like this impact copper. Looks well on the car, I think. But definitely a big car now. And look at the rear. It's like the front. Clean, simple design. Really distinctive though, isn't it? You know, just a really clean and uncluttered sort of look about it. And again, you look at it and, you know, it's its own car. I really like this car. I think, you know, overall the designers have done a great job with it. You know what I was talking about there, about that central spine down the bonnet? Of course, that's what I mean here. You've got that cross element here with the high level sort of like brake light just being that little strip in the middle, that vertical strip. And then of course you then got the horizontal, which is the light bar across. And like the front, because it can now be illuminated, you've got the Vauxhall lettering just illuminated in red there. Again, makes the car really, really stand out. There's no external badging on it either. Again, it helps with that, you know, that uncluttered look. But you've got Grandland now embossed into sort of like the rear hatch. Again, a simple thing, but I think it works really, really well. Obviously, again, there's some tech on the car. You've got the little reversing camera underneath there. Now, again, it'll depend on the spec that you go for to what you actually get. So if you go for the medium sector, so if you just go for the design, sorry, you just get reversing sensors. Medium-sized GS just gets the reversing camera. If you go for this ultimate spec, the top of the range one, then it's a 360-degree surround view camera. So that's there. And then of course, like the side and the front, you've got this gloss black area here that gives it that nice duotone finish and just reduces the visual bulk of the car. Tailgate comes right down to sort of like bumper level, good big rear glass screen, and of course wiper mounted there. So, what do we think? As I say, it's a really good looking car to my eyes, and as I say, it's much more distinctive and more defined than, dare I suggest, the Grandland, sorry, that went before it, which, as I say, I think struggled to sort of define itself a little bit. But this one I think is going to do a much better job, and I think it's going to really push Vauxhall back into sort of like a real sort of like design-led type of company. But as always, that's my view. What's your view? What do you think about it? Do you have one of the old Grandlands? Would this tempt you? Or would you rather go for something else like a Renault Scenic or a Volkswagen ID4? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, of course, with it growing in size, it's certainly grown in practicality. Although, oddly, it is just a 5-seat car. Obviously, you look at it a little bit and you think, well, Peugeot with the 5008, it's got 7 seats. You don't get 7-seat option in the Grandland. It is just a 5-seater. If you want a 7-seat Vauxhall, then believe it or not, the smaller Frontera is going to offer 7 seats, but only on the hybrid, not on the electric, only on the hybrid. So if you want an electric 7-seat Vauxhall, you've got to look at the Combo or the Vivaro. Right, 550 litres of boot space, which is good, okay? Smaller than a Skoda Enyaq, but that is a huge car. But that is a good size of boot for a family SUV. I think there's nothing to complain about here at all. You've got a 40-20-40 split rear seat, which again I think is probably the best way to split a rear bench, and that will take total capacity up to 1,650 litres if you need more space. There's a variable height boot floor as well, but here you've got this load entry which is straight flat in from bumper level. There's other nice little things, like you've obviously got underfloor storage, but you can also just clip the boot lid up like that so you can get access into your cables and stuff there. But as I say, you can lower that down to give you slightly more height in the boot itself. So again, good, decent size. And what I also like about it is, look, solid parcel shelf, not a roller blind at all, so that's nice. You get other nice little bits in here, such as, you know, you get the hooks at the side for hanging shopping bags off, and you've also got tie-down lashing points around the side of it. Do the suitcases fit? Well, yeah, absolutely. There's a large suitcase. There is a medium one in there, and then we've got 2 carry-ons which can go in there like that, and we've still got room for my rucksack and camera bag. So as I say, practicality way better than what's gone before, and one of the best in its class. However, there's no storage up at the front because obviously, as I say, Grandland you can also have as a hybrid as well. So nothing up at the front, but if you can't get on with that amount of boot space, maybe you shouldn't be looking at this size of car at all. So I was talking about the length of the car having grown quite substantially. As I say, it's only 1 millimetre longer than a Skoda Enyaq, which is a great car for accommodation. How does the Grandland fare? Fantastic is the word that I think you would be looking there for. Look at the space back here. This is superb. Now that's my driving position. Admittedly, I'm not a tall man, but even so, there's loads of room back here. You know, if you're a family, you know, sort of, you know, it doesn't really sort of matter, you know, got 2, 3 kids, it doesn't make any odds. There's more than enough room back here for everyone. And helped in part, I don't know if you can see it from this angle, the backs of the front seats are really sculpted out, you know, to again just give that bit more leg room as well. Now there's a lot of effort gone into the seats in the car, which I'm going to talk about when I'm in the front. But what you have here, as I say, is a huge amount of room. Very easily, I would say, you get 3 across here. There is a flat floor, despite the fact you can have it as an internal combustion engine. And part of the reason for that is the STLA medium platform has been designed to be electric first and then combustion engine later. You know, so they have designed it primarily with electric vehicles in mind. So the compromises have been engineered out from the start. It's almost like they designed an electric car platform and then adapted it to take engines. And that's with Peugeot as well, in fairness, and obviously coming out with Citroën and with Fiat and whatever. But so these STLA medium platform is a really good platform, I think. So as I say, you've got a flat floor across, no problems there. Good amount of storage in the back as well. So you've got the pockets in the backs of the front seats. There's also these upper pockets here for, you know, for kids dropping their phone into, or their AirPods to be lost, and a screaming match later when they can't find them. There's reasonable sized door bins, which will take water bottle. And as I say, you've also got a fold-down armrest, which will do 2 cup holders, and this slot-in tray here, which you can drop a packet of Frutellas in, or probably even maybe have an iPad sort of like upright now, although you wouldn't maybe be able to watch it. But in fairness, it'll certainly take you know, sort of like colouring pens or whatever. And as I say, remember that 20% bit of the seat will fold down as well, so you can still have 2 rear passengers and a longer load-in as well. Please, someone, you know, think about sort of like rear ISOFIX better than these silly zips. Please, Stellantis Group. They're silly. They're just going to break. You know, you're just going to leave them open and bits of crisps and stuff are going to end up in there. I don't think that's the solution. Think of a better solution than that, eh? Anyway, headroom, good. Not bad for me at all, you know, again, considering I'm a wee shorty, but this car has the panoramic glass sunroof, and it also has a little strip of ambient lighting along it as well, which is nice. Now, you only get this on the Ultimate model as well. We'll talk about specs a bit later on. But yeah, as I say, there's very little to complain about back here. There's connectivity, there's 2 USB C ports down there, and a 12-volt socket as well, if you're in the old-fashioned way, and another little tray there that you'll get nothing into. But the space is adequate. It's absolutely fine. There's no problem at all. And again, I'll talk about the seats when we're in the front seats, but in terms of comfort, it's really good. You know, there's just enough length in the squab. I can get my feet underneath the seat in my driving position. As you know, I like my seat quite low down. But in fairness, it's not too bad. But yeah, there's a decent amount of room back here for a family car. You're not going to have any complaints, not unless you're the Von Trapps. Right, now let me just start the car up. A bit like the outside of the car, there's a lot has changed on the inside of the car in terms of the way Vauxhall are designing the interiors. Now, there's good and bad things in here, okay? But what I will say, sorry, it's just beeping at me because it's going through all its little things. What I will say, it is mostly good stuff, okay? And I think this is a really, really good interior. I really, really like it. Shall we start with the stuff I don't like, and then we'll just get that out of the way? Okay, let's do that. Shush, download complete. There's a bit of shiny plastic up there. It's almost kind of fake, kind of carbon. I don't really know what it is, but it's well built. You know, it's fine. You know, in terms of it's well screwed down. It's just quite shiny. And what I did notice the other day was this bit here, just in front of the steering wheel, but you know, between the steering wheel and the head-up display, was reflecting on the window and a bit of sunlight. So I don't know what it's going to be like in the summer with that being a bit shinier. I don't know. And again, down here, okay, it's not gloss black. It's not the piano black plastic, which, you know, I'm sick of. So I applaud you for that, Vauxhall. The only downside I feel here is, just at the edge of this bit here, the centre console, that's quite sharp. You know, and it makes it feel cheap than it really is, if that makes sense, you know. So as long as you sort of stay away from those bits, it's all right. All right? That's sort of my biggest bugbear with the interior. The rest of it, it's actually pretty good. I really quite like it. Now, you get two screens in the car. You get this 10-inch one in front of you as the driver, which is all the information that you might need in here. You know, obviously your speed, your range, all that kind of thing, which is nice and simple. You've also, again, got a head-up display if you go for the ultimate model. There's a lot of the stuff you have to walk up the range to get. You can't option it, if that makes sense. But this head-up display, the one thing, well, sorry, two things I'll say about it that I really like. First of all, there's a huge amount of detail, including the navigation map on it. So you've got a really nice view. The other thing I like about it is the fact that, again, if you want to adjust the height of it, its position on the screen, you do it via this, the mirror control. The door mirrors. So you turn it to the front, the little dot to the front, and then it doesn't adjust your door mirror, it adjusts the head-up display. That's brilliant. That's really simple. I really like that, Vauxhall. That's a great idea. So you don't have to delve into the screen and just be touching it. You can just do it with your right hand. Fabulous. And there's a huge amount of detail on it. So I really like that. That's excellent. Then you come on to this screen, the infotainment screen. If you go for a design model, it is a 10-inch screen. If you go for a GS or an Ultimate, then it jumps up to 16-inch. And obviously, as you can see, it's more sort of like in landscape is the width rather than in portrait. And again, I quite like that. It doesn't look like a sort of like a big portrait iPad stuck on the dashboard. It's a little bit better integrated. You know, it looks a little bit neater, and it doesn't interrupt your view of the dashboard at all, and therefore doesn't interrupt your view of the screen. So that's got to be commended. Now, it's made up of various different areas. So you can see on the side there, you've got the temperature, or hopefully you can see on the side you've got temperature. But you can adjust your temperature via the physical toggle switches underneath it. So again, there's physical buttons, the stuff you need access to quickly. You know, volume control, automatic climate, temperature, fan speed. This one's got a heated front screen, but you know, full defrost and rear demist, and the central locking and hazards. There's none of it buried in a screen. They're all physical buttons there. And the other thing that I like, as you know, I don't particularly like all these interrupting ADAS systems, and they're always usually sort of like 3 or 4 screens in, you know, before you've got to get them. With Vauxhall, what they've done is they put a shortcut here, so you've got this little car symbol. If I press that, oh, somebody's put 50p in the meter, it immediately brings up the ADAS screen, and you just turn it off. Okay, that's it. The only thing I'll say about it is the graphics, the way they've set them up. The graphics, they do a little thing. You know, this is what Stellantis cars do. So it looks like the screen's being laggy. It's not. It's just that it goes through its little graphics thing. And that sometimes is quite frustrating because you think, you know, you've not done it right, or the screen's been laggy. It's not. You've just got to give it time to do it. So when you turn something off, hang on, actually that one there is quite difficult to do. Why is that not turning off? Oh, there we go, confirm. And then you get a little beep to say you've confirmed it. Okay, but you've got the shortcut button that takes you immediately to it. So, you know, that you can't ask for more than that. Okay. If you pull down, then there's sort of like your notifications there. That's fine. And then at the side here, you'll see you've got some of the heating functions, the heated seats, the heated steering wheel. Now, there's also, I haven't been able to find it, maybe because I haven't looked for it hard enough, but there's what they call the pure panel as well. So a bit like Saab, you know, on Saab, they used to have a night panel. I'm a big Saab fan. I've had loads of Saabs. And what they did was they had this button, the night panel, that shut everything down except for the speedometer. You know, and I think something over here, and that was it. So you can do the same with this. If that's too much for you, there's somewhere in here you can go into what they call the pure panel, and it starts to, it minimises everything for you, so you're not being distracted by a load of stuff. Again, a really simple thing, but something that people will probably want to have. I like that. The other thing I'm going to talk about a lot is the seats. Now, hang on, I need to figure out what it's called. AGR certified, okay? Now these seats, it's a German company that looks after healthy backs or something like that, and that's what they've got, this AGR certified. And if you have a look at them, I'll put B-roll up, it looks like you've got 2 separate cushions for your bum cheeks, and then a little sort of like trough in the middle of the two of them, where your tailbone isn't being compressed. so you don't have that compression on your spine. There's a huge amount of lateral support down your sides and along the side of your thighs. Plus you've got the you can move out the sort of like the squab as well on these ones. And if you upgrade to the Napa leather, you can get them with ventilation and massage function. These seats are fantastic. I did a really long drive in the car the other day. And when I got, and I flew, it was the Skoda Elrock International launch, and I came back, so I was travelling quite a bit, and I came back to Stansted Airport quite late at night and jumped in the car and drove home. And these seats are just phenomenally comfortable on a long drive, on a motorway drive. They are. The head restraint will also move in and out as well as up and down. So there is so much adjustment that you will not feel. What I will say, however, it did take me a lot of tweaking to find my position, just to get the right position, and that's to do with the steering wheel, but I'll talk about that in a wee second. But these seats are excellent, they really are. And the other thing about them is that the heating element on them, my God, even on the lowest setting, it's like sitting on a furnace. They heat up immediately. I've never known heated seats, apart from my Saabs, to be as good as this. They immediately come on and immediately you feel the benefits. You've got to turn them off, otherwise your back starts to sweat. God knows what it'll be like on the highest position. I didn't touch it. It'll be like sitting in hell, literally. But they are brilliant. So the seats are phenomenally good. I was talking about the steering wheel there. Let me just go on to that now. The steering wheel, it's a slightly smaller affair than usual that we've been used to with Vauxhall. It's not quite as small as Peugeot, but it's kind of going that way. So you look through the wheel to this little sort of like 10-inch display here, which is nice. So the steering wheel itself is slightly smaller than you maybe expect it to be if you've been used to Vauxhall product. And that's good and bad. So it's quite a nice little wheel to hold, but it takes a little bit of time to get your driving position just right, because it's a weird sort of size. It's not small like the Peugeot where you've got it really low down and you're looking over the top of it, but it's not the normal size wheel where you'd have it in a normal position. So it does take a little bit of tweaking to get your ideal position. But the design of it's nice. Slightly, it's a slight kind of squircle almost. So again, it allows you to good view of that, and then you get this little, again, that central spine, almost like that cross sort of design that you can see on the outside of the car, which is nice. But you've got a nice little bit for your thumbs just to fall into there. The buttons here, they're not touch sensitive. They are physical buttons, but they're one big button that moves on different planes depending on the function you want to have. And then you've got column stocks right behind, which look kind of shiny black plastic, but actually in fairness they are quite quality. So when you turn them or move them, they've got a real defined movement, so they feel quite quality, which is why that disappoints that little bit, because that feels really nice. Some of the buttons feel really good quality. But the steering wheel, I say, is a very nice sort of like hold. So once you get your driving position right, you sit really nicely in the seat, good driving position. This area here, this is what they call the pixel box in here. So you've got this clear sort of panel here. You pop your mobile phone in here and you've got a wireless charging pad, and that means you can still see your phone, but it's covered and it's out of sight, and it's not as distracting as it might be when it's in there. You've also got 2 USB-A ports in there as well that you can power stuff off. You've got your usual toggle switch for the drive selector here, and then the drive mode button behind it, an electric parking brake. This is a clever idea. You can vary the bit of the cup holder. Now, how do I do it? There you go. See, look, if you need a bigger trough and less of a cup holder, it's on a sort of ratchet, or if you want 2 cup holders instead, or if you've got a slightly bigger coffee cup, you can push it further forward to grip it more than the back one, and that's gripped on the bottom of that sort of rubber line, so that's excellent. There's good door bins. Again, they're not lined, which would have been nice to see, especially if you've got this nice sort of material that Vauxhall are using here. So it's along the door panels and up on top of the doors and across the pixel box, and it's a recycled sort of, it feels almost wool blended at the top there, and it's a really nice, and again, that's my problem with it. You've got such nice materials around here and there, and then the padded bit of the armrest in this door, and then you've got this really hard shiny plastic up here, which is right in your eye line. It's there, it's visually there in front of you. It's not like it's down here. Underneath this area here is you've got a nice big storage area here, you know, which is big enough for, say, my iPad. My iPad can slot in there neatly, or, you know, you've got your wallet, your sunnies or something, you can stick them there. The glove box is pretty useless because, as usual, it's a half glove box because obviously it's Stellantis group. There's I think it's an 8 or a 10 speaker Vauxhall audio system on this Ultimate model, which again is excellent, which means of course you've got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's standard on the car as well. So you look, you know, as I say, it's a really good interior. I really like it. This is here, you know, as I say, when you go through it, when you know, choose something, do you see what I mean? You've got, the graphics are okay. They've got that little. They're not immediate, but that's how they've made the visuals flow, if you like. It's not a laggy screen, but it just makes it feel like a laggy screen. You know, and you can go into your more in-depth climate menu here. See, when you press seats and steering wheel or climate, it just takes a little while for it to come up. It's not an immediate thing. But, you know, on the whole, I can't really complain about it. And I like the fact you can make it small. I don't know how you do it. I wish I could figure it out. And I like the fact you've got those shortcut buttons that take you straight to the stuff you want to turn off immediately. And I think you might be able to program them. I'm not sure. So that's there. And then you get the physical buttons for turning up the stuff that you might need a touch, such as your audio system, you know, to turn it down, your heating and ventilation, you know, so increase or decrease the temperature. As I say, once you get used to the driving position, this little wheel doesn't really matter too much. You know, on the whole, 90% of it is really lovely materials around the car. The seat material, the door panels. I wish they just didn't have this shiny bit across the dash. It just ruins it a little bit. It just cheapens it a little bit. But the rest of it, I can't fault. It's a lovely car to spend time in. It's a really nice. I'd love to take this to Scotland. I really would. I'd love to do a long drive in it and see what it's like on the motorway. Because these seats, they're making a big thing of these. And as I say, so far, I have not been able to complain about them at all. They've been superb. But as I say, watch yourself with the heated element of them because they'll set your backside on fire. But yeah. Best interior we've had from Vauxhall for a long time, I think. This is a really good place to be. There is one fault. There is one other problem, sorry, I did mean to say. And that is if you don't have the electric seat adjustment, they're manual, okay? Now, normally that's all right. The only problem is, however, the backrest adjustment is on a wheel. And it is at the base where the squab and the backrest meet. And I cannot get my hand in there to adjust the backrest enough. Now, I've got small hands, okay? I'm a little fella. These are not big things, you know? I wouldn't have been a good piano player, and I can barely get my hand between the pillar of the, you know, the body shell and the seat to adjust the backrest. If you're a big fella, you've got hands like shovels, there's no way that you'll be able to, you're going to have to option up electric seats, because if somebody moves that, you get in a position, somebody moves it, your partner or, you know, whoever drives your car and moves it, you're never going to be able to get your hand back in there. So I don't think that's a great idea, Vauxhall, in fairness. Other than that, I really like the seats. But that I had to come back in and tell you about that, because that's a problem. Anyway, let's crack on the rest of the review. So up until now, it's been fair to say that Vauxhall's electric car offerings have been decidedly average. Yeah, 50 kilowatt hour batteries, 250 mile range, low charging speeds. Yeah, average stuff. This is well above average, okay? This changes with the Grandland, and I'm really happy about to be able to say that. So this new platform means that the car comes with a 73 kilowatt hour battery, and that should give a range, according to WLTP figures, of up to 325 miles. It's 318 miles on this Ultimate because of the bigger wheels, in fairness. But here's the thing. I was going to Mallorca last week to film the Skoda Elrock review, yeah? So and we're flying at Stansted. Now I live in Surrey, so from Surrey to my house to Stansted, 60 miles, okay? I charged the car up to full, took this car to the airport, charged it up to full, drove it to Stansted, went out to Mallorca, did all the stuff with the Skoda, flew back, drove the car back home Friday night, and it's still showing about 150 miles of range on it. That's good. You know, that's good. You know, so that was a good 270 miles of motorway driving. Absolutely no problem at all. Yeah. So there, you know, in terms of what the car was showing, it was showing 320 miles when I unplugged the charger from it. So a mixture of driving, I was going to get closer to that 300 miles, I think. So that's excellent. Really chuffed with that. Charging speeds, 160 kilowatt charging speeds. Vauxhall's quote a 20 to 80% charging time of 26 minutes. But even a 10 to 80% charge is going to be 30 minutes, which is what every other car in its class does, save for the likes of Kia and Hyundai. But in fairness, half an hour, that's not bad. Okay. If you do need more, however, next year, 2025, there's going to be the 98 kilowatt hour battery, and that should give up to 435 miles of range according to WLTP figures. So if you do need more, there is a bigger battery car coming along. But in fairness, I think this is this is the real standout part for me on this Grandland. That's a really usable range, I think. You know, in terms of, you know, going away with the family, you know, down to France or down to the West Coast, the West Country or whatever, or up to Scotland or something as a family car. That's a good usable range. And as I say, in my experience, it's capable of doing it. Now, there's also 11 kilowatt onboard charging as standard on the car, but no talk of vehicle to load or bi-directional charging as yet from a no 800 volt architecture, but you can't have everything, folks. So, performance and handling. How does the big Vauxhall fare in this section? Well, not bad actually, in fairness. In fact, actually, that's probably doing it a little bit of a disservice. I'll explain in a little second. It's a single motor car. The motor's mounted up the front. It's 210 PS, which means 213 horsepower. Excuse me a second, let me just turn that fan speed down a bit. It does 0 to 60 in 9 seconds. Does it need to be any quicker than that? Do you know what? I'd like it to be. Now, there's going to be a dual motor version, you know, obviously with more power. I mean, that's coming on stream. But just thinking, you know, from a family car point of view, especially one that has the sort of the practicalities of the Grandland, you know, you're going to be loading kids in it, you're going to have luggage in it, you know, you're going to have, you know, adults in the back as well, perhaps. And you know, and it's a heavy car, you know, it is over 2 tons, this car. It's half a ton heavier than the hybrid Grandland, albeit it is more powerful than the hybrid one. So it doesn't feel blisteringly fast, let's just say that. But it could probably do with, I don't know, another maybe 30 little ponies up at the front or something. Sometimes you're in a situation where you just like a little bit more pulling power, you know, just to squeeze past a slower bit of traffic. That's all. It's not horrific, you know, as I say, it's not a horrific car. It's not a slow car in that sense. But just a little bit more power would be appreciated, I would suggest. So that's in terms of the performance of it. The rest of it. Okay, so Vauxhall have fitted a thing called frequency selective dampers to the car. Now let me try and explain, hopefully reasonably well, what that means is. Effectively, there's a secondary hydraulic circuit in the dampers, and that basically then reacts to the frequency of the damping and adjust the damping force to that frequency. So in other words, it works in a high frequency situation where that would be, say, low speed, for instance. So high frequency, i.e. you're going through a town where there's a lot of drain hole covers, or, you know, manhole covers, or you know, or potholes, or sleeping policemen, that type of thing, or speed bumps to you younger kids out there. So, you know, where you've got those sort of like the higher frequency impacts, if you like, and then obviously what it then does is it reacts to those and then changes the dampers to deal with that. And then when you have a low frequency situation, so for instance motorway or open air roads or dual carriageways where the wheel is in contact with the road surface a lot more, that's a low frequency situation. So again, you know, and it reacts differently to that. Now, oddly enough, it's those high frequency situations where the car doesn't really cope that well with. It's all right, it's not uncomfortable, I want to make that very clear, but you can feel the ride quality certainly being harsher on those sort of, like, you know, those high frequency situations. So say round about town, you know, you're driving down where there's a multitude of different road surfaces where it's been, you know, re-tarmacked, or you've got potholes or things like that. You can feel the ride being quite fidgety. Now, in part, that's probably due to a lot to the weight of the car. And obviously this ultimate spec car is on 20-inch alloys, which I'm sure contributes to some of that. So as I say, I'm not calling it uncomfortable at all. I'm just saying you notice the ride being just that little bit fidgety, a little bit more jiggly at those low speed. Its primary ride isn't quite as good as some cars in its class. Now I'm thinking, you know, sort of like with Citroen with their patented air cushions, you know, their hydraulic bump stops and things, if they fit those to the C5 Aircross, which is going to get changed to be on this platform, that's going to be the one to have for comfort. The flip side, however, you know, in defence of the Grandland, is when you do have it up on the motorway or on more open roads, it actually is quite nice. It isn't uncomfortable at all. It's quite refined. It's okay. You know, the ride quality settles down. So it's odd that, as I say, round about town, where you do want to be a bit more isolated from some of those harsher surfaces, is actually the bit it's not particularly good at. Okay, with the electric version of the Grandland, Vauxhall have also fitted a multi-link rear setup at the rear suspension, whereas the hybrid car gets a torsion beam. It's less expensive, it's cheaper to do and stuff like that, but you know, at least you get this multi-link on the electric one. But as I say, it's not absolutely ideal, if I'm being blunt about it. But please don't take that to mean it's an uncomfortable car. It isn't. It is more comfortable than a Peugeot E3008, and I mean, as I say, that's an alright car, that's okay. But as I say, it's just those roundabout town situations where you do feel the suspension just working that bit harder, and you can feel imperfections in the road. As I say, maybe a design on smaller wheels might help it as well. I don't know. But that's really the negatives out of the way. That is pretty much the negatives out of the way. The rest of it's all good. You've got quite a light steering. You know, you've got, you know, a relatively light steering, and you've just got to get used to that a little bit. You know, it doesn't really weight up too much at speed. You can change obviously the drive modes where the car goes into, you know, eco, normal, and sport, your usual stuff. But it doesn't sort of like you can feel a smidgen of a difference, but it's still quite a light steering that you've got here. Now again, that is something to get used to, and you're only really going to notice it when you're up at those higher speeds. I must admit, I noticed it, you know, so you're doing a lane change on a motorway, or you're coming a bit hot into a roundabout, you know, on an open air road, and you're a bit too, not forceful, but you think it's going to be heavier than it is, and you realise at the last minute, oh crikey. But once you get used to it, actually, you know, it's all right. It's not fingertip light. It's not like the BYD Seal that I drove. It's just almost fingertip light. It's all right. But again, there's a positive to that negative, is the fact that the car is really manoeuvrable at low speed. So, you know, you take it shopping on a Saturday, you go for the big shop, you know, you go to Tesco's, Sainsbury's, whatever. I mean, you know, sort of like, you know, the multi-story that I've been in, it's a really easy car to manoeuvre round about, you know, town, the office car park, the school, you know, if it's got one of those kiss and drop situations, you've got to get in the car park and get back out. It's easily manoeuvrable. And also as well, the other positive with this as well, in terms of the manoeuvrability of the car, because you sit quite high, and because the car is that sort of boxy style, and because there's a lot of glass around you as well, it's a really easy car to manoeuvre and park and do all those things that everyday life throws at you, you know, like shopping and going to the office and dropping the kids off at school and stuff. So from that point of view, the light steering isn't so much of a problem, because, as I say, it means it's very easy to manoeuvre the car at lower speed. So I do quite like that. Talking again just in terms of driving environment and position, as I say, you've got a really lovely clear view ahead of you. As I say, I've got the seat all the way down, but I still feel like I'm in quite a commanding driving position. And of course, without the big screen there, you know, or, you know, a more sort of like a screen that's more larger in the landscape than it is in the portrait, you don't have any interruption ahead of you. You can really see across the big expanse of bonnet. You've got good big door mirrors, as I say, you've got a lot of glass around you. So that's, you know, got to be good just for, as I say, those mundane everyday tasks and driving into the shops, driving into the town and doing stuff like that. Okay. The brakes. Well, again, you know, obviously with Stellantis now moving towards this STLA medium platform, whereas the older cars like the Mokka and the smaller ones, the Corsa and the Astra and stuff, you don't have the adjustability on the brake regen that you do on this STLA medium platform. So whilst you used to have the PRND and then you had the B button for braking, here you've actually got different levels of brake regen. So, and again, I just find this really, really odd. You add more power to the more forceful braking by pulling back on the minus paddle and take it off by the plus paddle. I don't understand why that is that way. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. You have an adjustability there, and I like that. That's really, really good. The brakes themselves are actually quite decent. You know, you've got there isn't the sponginess and feel that there used to be with the Stellantis cars. That's a bit of a hit and miss. I've driven some of the newer Stellantis cars that do have it. I haven't really experienced it in the big Vauxhall. It's quite nice. You do push through, not a deadness, but you know that there is a relatively longer travel on the brake, but it doesn't feel spongy like it used to. Before, when you push through it felt like you were standing on a damp sponge and then the brakes would bright. It doesn't here. You just got a bit of longer travel on the pedal. And I'm okay with that because, as I say, it feels quite natural. And I think that's maybe something that they've adopted in the hybrid. I don't know. You know, it's maybe just the transition from the hybrid to the electric. It's a very, very similar style of braking system. Who knows? There's not really an awful lot else to say about the car. You know, in terms of the way it drives. It handles tidily. You know, it's not obviously a car you're going to be going and throwing down a twisty country road, obviously. But, you know, and as I say, that situation where you're maybe, I don't know, you're maybe going on a family holiday, you know, down to France or whatever, or, you know, you're going down to Cornwall for the Easter break or whatever you do, you know, with the family, you know, on a long drive, it's a really nice car. It really is. That's where it really wins, I think. As I say, because actually at those speeds the ride's decent, you know. Round about town, as I say, you can almost, I'd say you would put up with the more fidgety ride just because you've got a really big family car that's nice and easy to manoeuvre around. You know, it's very easy to put into car parks, it's very easy to place it on the road. You know, you're driving down a narrow street, you know, with bigger cars coming you the opposite way. You know, you've got a good visibility out the car to see what's going on. There really isn't a problem with it. It's really hard to fault if you just look at it as, you know, I get on with the job, you know, nice, comfortably spacious, easy to live with style of family car. There's actually very little to fault it with. And the faults that I have picked up on, there's a positive for those negatives. So say your harsh ride round town translates into a car that's actually quite, you know, has quite a decent ride on the open road. The overly light steering, you know, so like when you're out on the open road, as a negative, your positive there is it's very easy to drive around town and park and manoeuvre around. You know, and as I say, if you were to think of the car, oh, it's quite, you know, the Grandland has grown in size. It is a good, big, spacious car to use as a family tool, as a family wagon. So as I say, actually, when you drill down to what the car is meant to do, it does tick every box. I'd like it to be a bit quicker. That's the only other thing I'd say. The performance is just, it's all right. You know, as I say, there'll be plenty of people drive it and go, oh, that's plenty fast enough. I'd like it to be just that little bit, because I do think it is a big old car. It's a big old Herbert. You know, it's half a ton more than the hybrid. It's more powerful than the hybrid, I get that. But it does feel its weight. And I think when the time you've put people in it and luggage and you know, or shopping and stuff like that, it will dampen what little performance there is. But other than that, I actually can't really fault this. This is a good family car. Right, let's talk about price now, because this is one area where I think, well, another area that I think Vauxhall are onto a real winner with the Grandland. They've priced it absolutely perfectly in some respects, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm not going to call it a cheap car, because obviously with the prices we're about to discuss, are not cheap in anybody's books. But what I think it does is I think it offers great value for money in comparison with what else the competition are offering. That's the key with this car, okay? Nice and simple range, 3 trim levels, that's it, okay? You've got design that starts the range off, and that comes in at £37,345, okay? Then you move up to the mid-spec GS model, and that's £38,495. If you want the Ultimate like this, then you just crest into that £40,000, unfortunately. £40,495 for an Ultimate. But this with the metallic paint on it is £41,195 as tested. Now, as I say, I don't think that's cheap, because 40 grand still is a lot of money for a lot of people. But in terms of what that offers you, you know, in terms of the competition, I mean, a Volkswagen ID4, you're spending a lot more money to get into an ID4 than you are with this Grandland, okay? The other interesting thing about the Grandland is price parity. This is something that we've been talking about for quite some time now, especially with Vauxhall. They are getting price parity. This is only a couple of £1,000s more than the hybrid model. So there's not, you know, a huge gulf between moving from hybrid to fully electric. And they're going even further than that, because the new Frontera, well, it's the same price, irrespective of whether it's hybrid or it's fully electric. So I really genuinely do think that this is an exceptionally cracking piece of value for money when you look at what else is out there at this price point, at this size of car. Now, whilst we're talking about value for money, it brings us neatly onto the competition, because you're going to think, what else can you get out there? Need to put 50p in the meter. What else can you get out there for your money? Well, there's a lot, obviously, and you're going to think this car shares its platform with Peugeot, so immediately your thought springs to something like the E3008. You think when you look at it, maybe the E5008, but that's a 7-seater, and it is a little bit bigger in some respects, but again, maybe you might consider it as well, but I don't think it offers the value that the Grandland does. Obviously there's the Volkswagen ID4 and the Skoda Enyaq, 2 good cars, especially the Enyaq. The Enyaq's a really good car, and that's a real piece of competition I think that Vauxhall have really got to face up to. The ID4 I don't think is quite as good, in fairness, and you've also got to spend quite a bit more money to get into an ID4 as well, so you know, you've got to think about that. Then of course there's the new Ford Explorer and the Renault Scenic as well, slightly smaller in some respects, in some ways, than the Grandland, so maybe not offering quite as much space, but I think the Scenic drives a wee bit better, and again it offers good range, and of course, you know, we've yet to drive the Ford, unfortunately, so I can't really tell you an awful lot about that, but there you go. And there's also key things such as maybe the Kia Niro Electric. You might still look at that car as a competitor, because that's below the £40,000 starting price, maybe. And then also maybe something like Toyota BZ4X and Subaru Solterra, perhaps, you know. There's enough out there to go for your money, that you could spend your money on instead of this. However, what I do want to talk about is the new brands that are coming in, that people might have maybe seen as giving stiff competition to the legacy manufacturers, you know, like Vauxhall. And of course there are going to be things such as the Moda E5, BYD with the new Seal Lion that's coming out, KGM Torres. And there's a car I drove the other week, which, if you're a regular viewer of AutoEV, you might have seen the review of, a Skywell BE11. Now, that's a car which probably is now going to have the unfortunate accolade of being the worst car I've ever had to review on this channel. It's dreadful, and it's from a brand that no one's ever heard of before, that's not as well equipped as this car, that doesn't feel as good you know, in terms of the interior quality of this car, that's from a brand that you've never ever heard of, doesn't have the range or the battery size of this car, and that's before we talk about the fact that it's absolutely bloody awful to drive. And they wanted £40,000 for it. But you could have one of these for that price. Do you see what I mean about the value for money aspect of the Grandland? I think Vauxhall have played a real blinder with this car, I really do. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the new Vauxhall Grandland. What we like its design, its interior space and practicality that it offers. It has great range and good efficiency. On the whole, it's really good to drive, and we think it offers great value for money. What we don't like, well, some interior plastics aren't quite there yet in comparison with some of the competition. The performance could be better, and its low-speed ride quality can feel a little bit fidgety. Every time I review a new Vauxhall and AutoEV, I always feel a little bit of a pang of disappointment. I really like the brand and I really want them to succeed in a lot of ways. I used to sell them back in the mid-1990s, so I've always had a bit of an affiliation for the brand. But as I say, I can't help but coming away disappointed every time I've driven a new Vauxhall. It always feels like there's somebody out there that does it just that little bit better. There's always something about it that just doesn't quite hit the mark for me. But I'm pleased to say that's not really the case with the new Grandland. It feels like they've really turned a corner. It feels like what they've done is they've really looked at the marketplace. They've really looked at what families out there want from a car such as the Grandland. And boy, have they delivered. Yeah, there's some areas of it that aren't quite perfect. I think the interior quality of the Peugeots that obviously it shares its platform with is slightly better. And there's some cars that feel maybe a little bit better to drive when it comes to ultimate ride and handling. But none of that really matters if you're just a family looking for a big, spacious, do-it-all style of car from a recognisable brand. And that's exactly what we've got here. The fact that it offers, I think, really good value for money and a great range just is the final tick in the box for me. So what we have here isn't a disappointment. What we have here is the best Vauxhall that we've seen in years, and it deserves to succeed, and it deserves your attention. Thank you for watching another, car park review from AutoEV. I'm really sorry about this, but the weather is what it is and we can't really help that. Make sure you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel, please, and once you've done that, press the little bell button that's down below, because that way you'll be notified when the next video is up and loaded and it goes live. Hopefully it'll be outside the next one. Once you've watched it, if you have enjoyed this week's video, then please make sure you give a little thumbs up, and of course don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about Vauxhall's new Grandland. Would you buy this over a Ford Explorer or Renault Scenic or a Volkswagen ID4? If you've never thought about Vauxhall before, are you starting to think about it now? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Now remember, we're across all social media platforms as well, so Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, we're there. Give us a follow there as well if you don't mind. And maybe you're looking for an electric car. Might not be a new Vauxhall Grandland, maybe it's a used Vauxhall Corsa and you want to know what all the information there is to know about it. How do you find out? Stick on the AutoEV YouTube homepage, and at the top you'll find a little magnifying glass. Type the name of the car you're interested in there, and if it's been a new electric car in the UK in the last 4 or 5 years, then of course we've subjected it to the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle, the AutoEV one. All that remains for me to say is thanks again for watching. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. Thank you for putting up with another car park review, and I'll see you again soon. Hopefully somewhere warmer.